activities as inflation continues to stabilize and remain below the central bank rate target. The central bank target for inflation is 5%, and we have remained within the target. Last month, it was 3.3%. This low inflation is expected to support recovery in consumption and investment, and also to support robust growth in trade, communication, hotel and tourism services, as well as continued recovery in transport and financial services. The high-frequency indicators of economic activity show an increase in the economic activity across board, better business sentiments by the business executives within the financial year. For example, in the third quarter, the Purchasing Managers Index averaged 51.67, remaining above the 50 mark threshold. We have also seen positive upward trend in other indicators, including those which we call Business Tendency Index, which has recorded 55.54 in March, implying that investors and businessmen have confidence and positive sentiments about the economy. You know, when business people who are doing business tell you that we are now optimistic, sometimes you see Ugandans who are not doing business commenting to the contrary. The people in business should be the ones, and usually those people don't talk, but we survey them and they give us their sentiments. But you find someone whose job is to click a phone, and is the one who's highlighting. So I wanted to emphasize that let's listen to the people who are actually doing business, manufacturers, business people, importers, exporters, to give the picture of the economy. And that's the one I'm telling you. It is therefore projected that the size of the economy, as a result of all of this I've said, is to grow from 184.9 trillion shillings. That's about $49.25 billion in financial year 22-23 to 204.9 trillion, and that is 55 billion US dollars this financial year. The economy is to expand by almost $5 billion. Inflation. As I already told you, the annual inflation averaged 2.9% in the first half of the financial year, down from 8% the second half of 2022-23, due to improved food supply alongside supportive monetary and fiscal policies. In March, headline inflation was recorded at 3.3%, down from 3.4% in February of this year. Exchange rate. The exchange rate has also been stable, although recent issuance of government treasury bonds in Kenya with very high interest rates caused some temporary weakening of the shilling against the US dollar by 1.8% between January and February this year. This is because some portfolio investors in government securities opted to exit Uganda for Kenya, where the yields were higher, thereby reducing the supply of dollars in the market. However, this was a temporary shock, which has already started to abate. The shilling traded at an average mid-rate of 3,895.8 US dollars, per US dollar. Every US dollar was purchasing 3,895 on average in March, from 3,873 0.6 per dollar, implying a depreciation of only 0.6%. So the depreciation rate is getting down. External sector. In the external sector, tourism inflows, foreign direct investment, as well as remittances from Ugandans who are working abroad remain strong. Those three, tourism, inflow, foreign direct investment, and remittances, have all remained strong, increasing by 29.5%, 21.3%, and 13.7% respectively in the first quarter of this financial year, 23-24, compared to the same quarter the previous financial year. The total export receipts remain strong, having registered a growth of 68.5% in the first half of 2023-24. Our exports grew by 68.5% in the first half of the year, compared to the previous first half in 2022-23. Going forward, therefore, the economy is projected to grow at 6.4% in the financial year 24-25, mainly driven by growth in services, agriculture, industry output, supported by increase in aggregate demand as we get out the inflation, and also investments. We are also expecting some good returns from efficient implementation of the growth supportive government programs. We are working on efficiency in implementation of the PDM, of our agricultural sector, of the oil and gas, of industry, and there are several government interventions we are having, but also infrastructure. Tourism is also another area we expect to support the growth, as well as the regional trade, as we address the non-tariff barriers. I now turn to approved budget and the release we have made for the first 3 quarters of the year, and then I tell you what we have released in the last quarter of this year. As you recall, the approved budget for this financial year amounted to 52.736 trillion shillings. And of this, wage was 7.289 trillion shillings. We also had a supplementary of 94.16 billion for wage. And therefore, we had a total of 7.38 trillion. Out of that, in the first 3 quarters, we released about 77% of the wage. Non-wage, this is money which supports government entities to operate, but also to provide some critical services. Critical services in health, in education, in environmental management, in water, in all sorts of things. We call it non-wage. We budgeted for 11.636 trillion shillings and also added a supplementary of 2.129 trillion shillings. So the total non-wage was 13.765 trillion. Of this, we have released 84% of that budget, 84 in the first 3 quarters, so that you can get services, including also security. Government of Uganda development budget. This is now the money which the government allocates for or has released for development purpose. But this is not the only money for development. the one which is from the government side. Remember, most of our development, so a big chunk of it is funded through projects. So the project money externally financed are not part of this. So government, we allocated 6.1 trillion shillings, added a supplementary on government development budget of 1.2 trillion shillings, and that brought a total of 7.3 trillion shillings. We have so far, in the first 3 quarters of this year, released 80.6% of that budget. 80.6% has been released to go and support development, including building of different things across government or across the country. Arrears, domestic arrears, we budgeted for 215 billion, about 215.8 billion shillings. They got a supplementary of 314 billion, a total of 529.8 billion shillings. All of this money has been released in the first 3 quarters so that we can support our suppliers, those who supply government, to pay the obligations. So in total, the government of Uganda side of the budget, the one which we finance from our own money, was 25.249 trillion shillings, added a supplementary of 3.8 trillion, bringing a total of 29 trillion shillings. And of those 29 trillion, we have released 20.8 in the first 3 quarters, representing 82.7%, or nearly 83% of that budget. We also have paid our debt obligations religiously. Uganda, we pay our debt obligations. We budgeted for 18.95 trillion. We revised by 3.4 trillion, a total of 22.3 trillion. And by the 3 quarters, we had paid 19.5 trillion. So we have paid our debt obligation to the level. We don't default on debt in Uganda. We pay as a first call on the budget debt. External money. This is money which now comes to finance mainly our projects in roads, in electricity, and so on. The budget was 8.2 trillion shillings. A supplementary of 371 billion was added, bringing a total of 8.6 trillion. So far, in the first 3 quarters, we have released 77% of that money, about 6.35 trillion. As you can see, we are improving on the performance of these externally funded projects. In the first 3 quarters, we have released about more than 3 quarters also of that budget. Local revenue, this is money collected by the local governments. They budgeted for 287 billion. They collected some more money, about 2.4 billion. And we have therefore a revised total of 289.5 billion. All of this money, as they collect, we send it back immediately for them to spend. There has been in the past a claim that government delays to send the money back. We send it almost promptly, except the extra money which they collect, and it has to first be appropriated by Parliament. So that one delays because you have to first take it to Cabinet and Parliament for appropriation. But the other, which is in the budget, we send as we collect it. Therefore, in total, this year's budget was approved at 52.7 trillion shillings. We had a supplementary or revision of that budget by 7.5 trillion, making a total of the total revised budget of 60.27 trillion. Of that, by the 3 quarters, we had released 46.7 trillion, representing a total of 88.6%. Therefore, as you can see from that table I've summarized, the government budget, when we deduct debt, external financing, and local revenue, has amounted to 25.249 trillion, and of this amount, 20.877 trillion, about 82.7, has been released for the first 3 quarters of this year. But also note that apart from the government budget, the performance of external financing stands at 77%. Now the highlights of expenditure limits for this last quarter of the year, the 4th quarter. This quarter, April to June, 7.687 trillion has been released, representing 30.4% of the government budget. And this is as follows. Wage, we have released 1.872 trillion shillings. That is 25.7% of the wage. And that is the balance which was remaining for wage. We have released it. Non-wage, we have released 3.347 trillion, representing 28.8% of the non-wage budget. Government of Uganda Development, we have released 2.457 trillion, representing 40.2% of the development budget. Arrears, we have released another 10.45 billion shillings. I already told you that we released all the budget, even gave them more. We have also given them more for the arrears, those who supply government. So in total this quarter, of quarter 4, we have released that 7.687 trillion shillings, 30.4%. This will bring the total government budget released for financial year 2023-24 to 28.564 trillion. That is 113.1% of the approved budget. It is higher than 100% because of the supplementary. The key highlights of the release. Where have we put this money we have released? I've told you already, wage and salaries 1.872 trillion. This one is going to cater for salaries of all government workers. In the non-wage, the money has gone mainly parish development model. We have released the balance, 529.7 billion. The first half of the PDM money, remember the PDM is about 1.1 trillion. We released the first half. And my people informed me this morning, now the money has hit all those accounts of the PDM that had cleared. So the people of Uganda should now prepare adequately for the next season, because the money is with you. This second half, we are also going to release it in terms of getting to the accounts in the course of these 3 months. So this makes the total release for PDM to 1.059 trillion shillings. The second driver of non-wage is pension and gratuity. We have released 312.3 billion shillings. Local governments, including education capitation grants to cater for term 2 of the school calendar, has been released, and the total capitation released is 239.9 billion. We have also released 189.74 billion to Uganda Road Fund for maintenance of roads across the country, and this will ensure 100% release for the road fund. No excuses for bad roads. We have released the money. We have also released 90.2 billion to the national medical stores for the purchase of essential drugs and medicines and other supplies, and this also ensures 100% release to NMS of 560.96 billion shillings. The health institutions have been given operational funds as follows: Ministry of Health, 37 billion shillings. Regional referral hospitals, 21.3 billion shillings. The National Referral Hospital of Mulago, 11.276 billion shillings. The Referral Hospital of Butabika, 2.172 billion. Uganda Cancer Institute, 14.43 billion. Uganda Heart Institute, 3.8 billion. Uganda Blood Transfusion Services, 1.45 billion shillings. Uganda Virus Research Institute, 1.4 billion shillings. Security institutions have also got money. Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs, 312.5 billion shillings. Uganda Police Force, 61.1 billion shillings. Uganda Prison Services, 72.3 billion shillings. Internal security and external security organizations, 52 in total, them, the spy masters, 52.9 billion. Statutory votes. These are votes which, by constitution, are statutory in nature. There are 3 of them mainly. Here I have, but there are others. Parliament, 156.1 billion shillings. Judiciary, 31.42 billion shillings. Auditor General, the Auditor General's office, 19.52 billion shillings. We have also released 106.7 billion to science, technology, and innovation, so that we can support R&D for our scientists. Government of Uganda development budget. The following money has been released to different entities so that they can support the development of the country. Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs, 629 billion. Uganda National Roads Authority, 364.8 billion. so that they can construct roads. Ministry of Works and Transport, 146.1 billion shillings, and this includes funds to continue implementing the SGR. Outstanding obligations under Ministry of Water and Environment, we have paid 133.46 billion. Capital expenditure under Ministry of Energy, Mineral Development to connect us to electricity, 152.8 billion shillings. Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, 42.7 billion. Health institutions, 12.5 billion for Cancer Institute, 2.75 for Heart Institute. This you add to the other non-wage. This is for development. And then 10.49 billion for the regional referral hospitals. KCCA has been given 29.34 billion under the government development budget so that they can continue to maintain roads, to fix those potholes, as well as drainage. Please note that 88 billion shillings for local government development has been released for road maintenance and equates now to 500 million per local government. So now in total, we have released the 1 billion shillings per district to maintain roads. I want to comment finally on the wage, pension and gratuity budget execution issues for this financial year. As you are aware, and I told you the last time I spoke to you, this ministry requested the Office of the Auditor General to undertake a special audit of the salary and the pension payrolls so that we can address the persistent shortfalls in salary, pension, and gratuity. The special audit of the salary component, the salary payroll, was concluded, and the findings have informed the wage allocation for next financial year, 24-25. And in that, the Auditor General helped us to know which entity were hosting ghosts, and we have killed all those ghosts. Which entity was overpaying people, we have taken people back to their normal wage. Which entity was underpaying people, we have increased their wage to what they are supposed to earn. Which entity was having workers who are not accounted for, who are not recruited properly. We have addressed all those issues, a number of issues under the budget. Now, during the audit, there are staff who were not fully verified because some of them were either abroad at the time or off station. And the Auditor General recommended that the Ministry of Public Service completes the verification process on a case-by-case basis. On account of the harmonized wage requirements, the wage bill for next financial year is Uganda shillings 7.513 trillion shillings. This is the harmonized wage bill. This includes staff who had been recruited but not accessed onto the payroll. The preliminary report from the Ministry of Public Service in respect of the ongoing verification indicates that some accounting officers have been recruiting staff over and above the approved wage bill for this financial year, and went ahead to access them into the payroll, causing shortfalls again, and in total disregard of our circulars. I have the list of these votes that have undertaken unauthorized recruitments, and I am going to take appropriate action against the accounting officers as well as their technical staff who recruited against the freeze which we had put in place as we were conducting this exercise. You know, in this country, there is a tendency of people, you know, behaving as if there is no authority, there is no guidance, there is no plan, there is no government, there is no state. People do whatever they want to do. I hope really this is going to stop beginning with this financial year. All of those accounting officers who have gone against the guidance we gave and have caused challenges within their payrolls, as we have just concluded the payroll audit, they will not account again, and their technical staff are going to be sanctioned, those human resource people, those finance officers, whoever has been involved, we are going to take appropriate action. Going forward, the following measures are going to be implemented to ensure prudent management of the payroll. Number one, the Ministry of Public Service shall close the window for accessing new staff on the payroll system, and any new records added shall require prior approval by the Ministry of Public Service upon confirmation of adequacy of the wage bill. That's number one. Number two, district service commissions must ensure that accounting officers support their submissions with the evidence of authorization of the requirement from the Ministry of Public Service. Number three, any shortfalls arising from accounting officer recruiting staff without authority by the Ministry of Public Service shall be deducted from the unconditional non-wage grant. Otherwise, local revenue will address the resultant funding gap. Every local government that accessed staff that are not supposed to be on the payroll are going to lose money in order to cater for that wage. But also, not forgetting, with that accounting officer out of that place as an accounting officer. And any officer found culpable going forward of any unprofessional conduct in the management of the recruitment process, specifically at wage bill analysis and access to payroll stages, are going to be held personally liable. In conclusion, I would like to highlight the following, as usual. Number one, all accounting officers must ensure that they pay wages, salaries, pension, and gratuity by the 28th of every month. I've already signed off all of these releases I've read for you. So there is no excuse for people not getting their salary on time. Number two, accounting officers must prioritize payment of service providers on time and avoid accumulation of arrears. And some of the people who have been accounting, we already submitted a list and have been creating arrears. They have been dropped as accounting officers. You will see the list. Some of those who have lost man of government have been dropped as accounting officers. You will see the list. Those who have disregarded the recommendations, the advice of the Auditor General in the previous period, and our own circulars have been dropped. A number of accounting officers will be dropped. There are so many people, as I always tell you, who can account. Yes. So we shall not really tolerate people who are not adhere to our guidance. Number 3, there should be display of the payroll for the salaries and monthly pensions on government institutions and cost centers. Those include schools, health centers, department boards, and so on. All of those notice boards every month should have these lists displayed. Accounting officers should ensure timely submission of performance reports and accountability. We are not really requesting, these are legal requirements and there are timelines on them. We should adhere to those timelines. Given that this fourth quarter, accounting officers must ensure that priority is given to meeting any outstanding obligations and should not enter commitments that will lead to accumulation of domestic arrears at the end of the financial year. We are going to strictly follow up this issue of how you utilize the money. And the failure to adhere to this will negatively impact on the consequent or subsequent budget ceilings of the MDA. Ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude, I want all Ugandans, fellow Ugandans, to realize that we are moving a step now forward in a fiscal consolidation agenda. We are not going to spend money we don't have. We are going to repurpose those budgets until we are living within our means. Therefore, everybody, wherever you are, just know that time has come for every entity to justify every single shilling that they get in terms of the services you provide, in terms of the growth you contribute. This tendency of holding on money, you have cut my money, your money, it must be a clear output. And this ministry will not hesitate in leading the way, of course with the support of other institutions, including the Parliament of Uganda that appropriates the budget through cabinet, and this has started with the next year's budget in full swing. So I want to thank you once again, you the press, that always amplify our voice, as well as our colleagues from the civil society, for supporting our budget transparency initiative. All the information that you need about the budget is the way I know it, the way I have it and all these officers is the way we have given it to you. There is no any other secrets. They are not there. I therefore urge all Ugandans to make use of our budget website, because this information is there even in details. You want to know who's spending money where, the entire budget is there. The website is www.budget.finance.go.ug. But as I always tell you, don't cram these websites again. You just put Budget Uganda. It will take you there in Mr. Google, and you get the website. There we post all the details, but also we have a call center here at the ministry, and the number is toll free. This number is 0800 229 229. Very easy number. 0800 229 229. There are some wonderful professionals behind this line who will tell you or answer everything that you need to know about the budget. I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, JSST, for that very serious communication, which requires very deep reflection by all stakeholders. Before we get a statement from our partners, we'd like to recognize our commissioner, structure, ISSD, so that's all right. You're very much welcome. This is Mr. Paul Manja. We also have a commissioner representing the internal auditor general who is here with us. This is none other than Mr. Samson Sowate, commonly known as Mr. You are very much welcome. And also I saw Assistant Commissioner Teresa Namach and other senior officials of the ministry. Now it's my pleasure to invite our partner to make a statement. Thank you.
Thank you, SSD, and your technical team, for my colleagues from civil society and also the media. PSSD, you've touched on a number of issues that we really wanted to bring to your attention, and we are glad that at least of late we are speaking almost the same language, especially on the issue of every shilling counts. And this is one of the slogans we have at CS Bar, that we must account for each and every shilling that we pay. We would like to really applaud you on the rationalization of expenses. This is an idea definitely we started some time back, but we are glad that really now it is taking root. Not only that, Chair, but also that you've let Ugandans know that time is up to spend on items of luxurious nature, but also spend on only those that bring returns. However, as we tighten our belts, Chair, we would like you to let us know how we intend to ensure that we increase our absorption rate, especially for the undisbursed loans, which we know is quite an outstanding sum of around 14 trillion, how we intend to ensure that that amount of money really comes to the economy so that the pain we are currently feeling can actually be reduced. The second item on the rationalization, Chair, is that we know that when accounting officers are tight on funds, they tend to do misallocation and also some environments. And it has been my issue, Chair, that the role of Ministry of Finance has stopped at dispersing money, but actually not enforcing that key priority of the sector must also be on the first core of their budget to avoid any misalignment and mischarges. We would like to know what the Ministry is going to do to ensure that sectors that adhere to their core mandate. We are happy with the payroll audit, and we would like to know if there are any savings made. But Chair, also, we would like to know that this payroll audit has concentrated more on local governments. What about our counterparts at the national level? Are they also going to be treated the same? Because sometimes local governments feel that we are unfair, we put a lot of pressure on them, but we would like to know whether our counterpart at national level also observe the same discipline. I would like also to bring to your attention, and I think this is an issue you have talked on and we have really been insisting on, undisciplined accounting officers who commit government and result in arrears. And I'm glad to hear that action is being taken, especially removing them from accounting for our money. We would like to know where we can get the source of those accounting officers who have been dropped, so that at least we know that action has been taken and done. PSST, you had promised earlier that the local government still complained that the center is still eating their money. And you had promised that one day that soon you will be providing us a detailed report on how much they have brought in and how much you have sent out and to who. I mean, it would really be good that once we get that, we can be able to put the debate to a close. I also want to bring to your attention the issue of tax administration. I mean, the burden is real. We feel the pain. And even if we say reduced by 10%, we still come back and say, please reduce by further 20%. Maybe all of us don't want to pay taxes. But we know tax is the price we pay for civilization. But Chair, when administration becomes unruly, then the pain increases. We've talked to our colleagues, and they have told us that IFRIS is hurting. The inability really to practice it is very slow. and we are asking ourselves whether there was any change management to prepare these small traders to apply IFRS. And of course, I think we have already seen that some supermarkets have actually taken Uganda Revenue Authority to court to challenge them on the same subject matter. The non-intrusive technology claimed by URA is actually becoming extra intrusive. We have seen evidence of traders whose containers have been opened and goods have been damaged because the URA officer feels it's like a small god on top of that. These are things we want you to take into consideration and begin to listen. And you had said that you want to listen to our traders and manufacturers, that you give them an opportunity to explain to you and see how we can correct some of these issues that they are facing. Lastly is the issue of unreliable value of goods and services in the URA system. There is a lot of claim, and which I think is true, Chair, that when you are importing goods and services, URA sometimes gives you different values to base their tax. And this has created a room for bribes, because if you bring a container of shoes, sometimes they value the container at different rates. So standardizing these rates and also insisting that these rates should apply is becoming a problem at URA, and I think it's an issue, Chair, that you need to look at, so that at least as we feel the burden of tax, we don't feel the burden of administering it. It should be seamless in terms of what we do. Chair, the last one is the unequal treatment of public servants when it comes to retirement benefits. It is setting a very bad precedent, and I think when it started with some big officers, we all sort of kept quiet, and it has increased. For heaven's sake, I would like to see a public servant retire honorably with good benefits. But when we begin to treat only one category of group, and then we leave out the lower cadres, it is going to reduce morale, but also it is unsustainable, because in the next, I'm very sure that members of parliament are likely also to come up and say, do you know what, I'm a member of parliament forever, even when I lose. And I don't think we should get that kind of money. But what about our commissioners? What about assistant commissioners? What about our drivers? Probably something can come out of that. It is important, Chair, that we guide government, that some of these things are likely to be unsustainable, but also it sets a very bad precedent. I thank you and hope for the best.
Thank you very much. I think we have joined up from God.
Thank you, Chair, Mr. PSST, and your staff, members of the First Estate. Good morning. My name is Richard Ayesigwa. I work with the court as a research fellow, and I am representing the ED court, who has not been able to make it. I thank you, PSST, for an elaborate presentation, and also Mr. Mkunda for touching some of the issues adequately that I wanted to raise. But still, on a number of issues that are remaining, I'm going to talk about just about 3 things. And one, adding my voice to what Mr. Mkunda has said, we are really happy with the payroll audit and the interventions that are following this audit. However, I would like to raise one of the major issues that might arise, especially with the district service commissions. At ACCORD, we conducted a study to assess the performance of the different statutory boards and commissions, and that is the District Service Commission, the Public Accounts Committee, and the Land Board. And among the issues that came up, the constitution of these boards, that some of them are not fully constituted, then the autonomy of these boards, that given who constitutes them, but then also issues to do with financing that they regularly see, and mostly sometimes the reports do not come out. And these could be some of the issues that will hamper the process of implementing the different interventions that are targeting that are following up on the payroll audit. So from our front, we request that this also be looked into to tighten the whole chain of recruitment and strengthen this component. But then also from what we discovered and taking from what the PSST has said, that every shilling counts, and the whole movement of the ministry is to make sure that there is prudent resource utilization. We also discovered that we conducted another study on the implementation of the recommendations and the queries raised by the local government public accounts committees, as well as their assessment of the Auditor General's report. And among the things that came up was that also the reports that they produce, some of them do not make it into council for discussion, but also other times, even if they make it into council, you find that the follow-up is negligible. And we think that this is also a conduit that leads to loss of resources within the local government, and probably this also needs to be looked into. And then finally, I would want to talk about the continuous unspent balances that come up along the way. We thank you that there has been, the releases have actually performed well, up to 113%. But then at the end of the financial year, we have the Auditor General's report talking about the number of releases, the number of unspent balances that come up. And I would want to know what strategies is this ministry taking to make sure that we do not have these recurrent unspent balances coming up each and every financial year. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Please ask me to make a response.
Thank you very much, our partners, for that feedback. We appreciate this feedback because you are out there in the society. You are our ears and eyes on the ground. The issue of absorption, I think, which Julius you are raising, tallies with what also Accord is alluding to. Absorption of government of Uganda funding has improved. But also the absorption of externally financed projects. We have worked and we are continuing to work on the issues that were affecting this absorption. What were the issues? Implementing projects which are not ready was the main issue. An entity pushes, they borrow money, we sign the agreement, we give them the money, but they are not ready to implement the project. The project was not studied, the designs are not ready, there is no right of way, there is no counterpart funding, and so on and so forth. We are going to carry on addressing those issues case by case on the old portfolio. But as we have told you before, going forward, we have improved tremendously our public investment management. No project now gets money, gets approved, even here on this table by this Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, when you have not completed the public investment management cycle. All of the key phases up to feasibility. Even this week, this very week, on Tuesday, we chased away an entity, very critical entity and very critical project because they were presenting a concept. For us to borrow money on a concept, in a concept like an idea, I want to build a hospital, and then this hospital, should it have 7 beds or 10 beds? Should it be having a maternity ward, or, you know, you are still on, and you bring that, which said, please go back and first get the required processes done. So that's the first step we have made. We have created a bank, an integrated bank of projects, where now the ready projects are put. And those are the ones we are going to get money for. Those which are not ready, no borrowing. But also, we are supporting institutions to prepare the projects. We have put in place a fund managed at the National Planning Authority with us here and other, I think, other stakeholders to study projects professionally, to appraise them so that they are made ready. So this issue of absorption, although we have struggled with the old portfolio, which also itself is improving, because now the old portfolio, for example, of World Bank, is now at 67% absorption from about 32% last year. We have doubled it in just 1 year, mainly because we have been addressing those issues proactively, which were affecting absorption of those projects in USMID, those projects in UGIFT, those projects in water, the projects in agriculture, the projects in roads, and so on. We are going to continue proactively to support the entities to get out this old portfolio, but without creating new challenges. The mischarges and misalignment, these ones, you know, there is a law. We do everything within the law. The Auditor General helps us to tell us who, because for us here in finance now, we can't be everywhere. How are you spending the money? And those who mischarge, they commit an offense. And the accounting officers lose the role of accounting. And as I've told you, we are going to be very strict on that matter going forward. The payroll audit, you are saying, concentrated on local government? No. It has been across government, only that most of the problems were in local government. This one I should tell you. I don't know why, maybe because of the political economic issues, the institutional setup. We had a lot of issues there, but also some of our ministries, departments, and agencies of government have been found offside in some areas. The source of accounting officers dropped is Parliament. We send them to Parliament with a budget. But it is a process. You know, it's a process. As we send the list, we also review and assess the information available. We shall be submitting a revised copy after adjusting for these new things I've told you. Some of them now we are finding that as we were doing the audit, they were committing more crimes. Can you imagine? So those ones we shall adjust the list, and I'm sure at the end of the day you will be given this list when we have finalized it. On the tax burden, Julius, you know, this is now a very topical debate in Uganda and East Africa generally. I wanted to inform the country, by the way, contrary to what you you think and you discuss, Uganda has the second lowest tax burden in East African region. Our tax burden, according to the Heritage Foundation, which ranks all countries in the world, it's an independent organization, international. Our tax burden stands at 11.8%, and we are ranking in the world 140th, 140. Down there, out of the 171 countries, our tax burden is at 140. The only country in East Africa that has a lower tax burden than Uganda is Tanzania at 11.7%. Ours is 11.8, Tanzania 11.7%, and Tanzania is ranked 141. Kenya is 17.4%, and it is ranked 93rd in the world. Rwanda 17.1%. Uganda, you are at 11, but we are more vocal. We think we are the ones who are going to die of tax. Sincerely, we need to put these things across and we discuss them with information. And then so on and so forth. The top #1 tax burden in the world is Denmark. Denmark taxes its people at 46.3%. 46. Uganda, you are at 11. But now when a Ugandan goes to Denmark, he says, I wish my country had these roads, had no potholes. And Denmark, they pay 46% of their incomes. We are paying 11.8%. France, 45.4%. Belgium, 42.9%. Sweden, 43.9%. Italy, 42.4%. Some people say those are developed countries. Well, there is Cuba. Cuba is number 6 at 41.3%. Tax burden by Heritage Foundation. The data is there on the internet. You can check on your own. And you see where Uganda is. Now, some people say the reason we don't want to pay tax is because we don't see what the tax does. There is no infrastructure. Now, how will the tax perform when there is no revenue? It is a chicken and egg. There must be money, adequate money to provide the services. The corrupt people, we are going to deal with them. They shouldn't be an excuse of not paying the tax. Therefore, this debate of tax burden, we need to put it in context. Uganda, we are among the lowest taxpayers in the world in terms of tax effort and tax burden. This is a fact. There is no argument about it. The data is there. Our friends, the traders, have issues they have raised. I met them with the team. His Excellency the President called me one morning and said, go and talk to the traders and find out the issues they have, and we address them. With my Director of Economic Affairs, with the Commissioner General of URA, we met. And they raised about 3-4 issues. Number one was IFRIS. IFRIS is not a tax. IFRIS is a system used to collect tax. Now, because Ugandans are not used to paying tax, they avoid, some evade. They don't want a system which makes sure that you can't afford to evade. A system is like a CCTV camera watching you. Once you enter the room, the camera is hovering over your head. You say, I don't want that camera. What do you want to do? What do you want to do in that room? So this is the IFRIS. It looks at the supply side and the demand side of the entire ecosystem of a transaction. And therefore, I would like to encourage all of us to know that IFRIS has come and IFRIS is going to stay to ensure that we know how much have we earned from a transaction, and is it what we have declared? And at the end of the day, we shall collect revenue, small revenue from each person paying will make more money for us than now putting the burden on a few people who are compliant and then we leave out others. So that is the IFRIS. IFRIS is not a tax, Ugandans. IFRIS is a system. It's like a camera to watch you what you are doing. There was a claim that IFRIS initial cost is high and was being put on traders, that they have to buy the machine on their own. This has now been also worked on. We have developed an application which we are going to use at a much lower cost, and already it has started working. So the cost has reduced tremendously. There is no, and if there are any other claims of the cost and whatever, we can study those. If need be, government will shoulder the cost. But please make sure that the IFRIS is a no-go area. We are going to implement it so that we can catch those who have been lying about the tax. Another issue they raised was foreigners in retail business. But there are some foreigners who are also doing retail. And I assured the traders that this is going to be addressed with the facts. Because they told us that some of the foreigners, they use Ugandans to register companies. Someone is a foreigner, he gets a Ugandan, because you know, foreigners are not allowed in retail. In some retail, these hawking things, selling a few things in a small shop in Chikubo, they can end at wholesale there and manufacturing. We assured them, the traders, that, and I'm assuring you again, traders, we are going to get to the bottom of this with the facts. Those foreigners who have been vending things through others, we have means now of getting them, because we have beneficial ownership now in registration of companies. We shall follow up those people. Those who are used to lie that they are the owners, we shall get them, and they will be of course removed from the system. The other issue they raised was also manufacturers selling directly to the buyer. Someone is a manufacturer, is in the factory, but also has a shop. We again assure the traders, and I'm assuring you again, that we are getting the facts. We are going to study this. First, we need to find out, why are these manufacturers, if they are there, selling direct to the buyer? Is it because they are greedy, they want to take on all the business, or because you traders also, you were overcharging the buyer, thereby making it difficult for the manufacturer to sell his goods, because they are not selling and the prices are high? This is what we are studying now. We have deployed a team to look at this. What are the actual reasons? The last major issue I think they told us was on the tax which is levied in kilos on textiles, that each kilo of textiles paying $3.5. This was a tax to protect our investors in the textile industry. And I promised the traders, and I'm promising them again, that we are studying this as well. Give us time. We can't just act. You wake up and then you act on policy matters. I told the traders that policy in government takes a certain process. You study, then you inform the policy makers. The policy makers make a comment, you carry out feedback, kind of check, and then you go to cabinet, you go to parliament. That's how we do policy. You don't just wake up and say, now that one is removed. And we are studying these concerns. We know them, as I've told you. Those are the main concerns they told us, and I've told you what we are doing with them. Therefore, there is no whatsoever any worry. We all appreciate as government that Ugandans have to do business, profitable business, gainful business. We don't want to tax anyone out of business, and we shall never do that. But also, those who think they are going to continue evading tax, I want to tell you, we are now going to be more ruthless on you who's evading tax. Because we are used to 100% profit by hiding things, by selling them, giving people 2 receipts. Even landlords. Landlords, in order to evade tax, they issue 2 receipts or a blank receipt. Imagine, somebody says, you have paid. You have paid, don't worry, and issue a blank receipt because it doesn't know we are coming for you landlords. Please, pay the property levies and also the income tax, which you have earned on the rent, the rental income. And as I've told you, the burden is much lower. That's how government will provide services, improve all these roads, provide electricity, provide security, provide. But now we are the Ugandans who don't want to ask to pay tax or to charge tax, but at the same time you are saying the burden of debt is increasing so much. So how shall we resolve this problem? On the URA administration, URA, I want to tell you, is doing a good job, but where there are isolated mistakes done by officers, we are going to, already we have been engaging this on the board of URA, here in the ministry at the tax policy department and economic affairs. We are addressing these issues. But don't invite URA to your business. How do you avoid inviting URA to your business? By paying taxes religiously. If you are supposed to pay 10% or 6% withholding tax, please pay it on time. But when you try to avoid and hide things, and URA comes to audit, 5 years audit, you have invited. I used to teach, as you know. I used to tell my MBA students, as business executives, never invite government to your business. And to avoid inviting government to your business, you do what government asks you to do. Government is a very understanding entity. They tell you, pay 10% or 6%. For you are like, can't I hide? Can't I bribe this? You are a person. You will just bribe a person today, and that person takes your money. But after 2 years, that person will not be there. We shall now deploy another. And within no time, we ask all of them to get away, and we audit you. You will not say, I bribed your man, and you will be in trouble. So don't invite government to your businesses, dear Ugandans. The unequal retirement benefits, this is a policy issue, a legislative matter, and it should be addressed at that level. I will definitely bring it to the attention of my bosses so that we can address that issue of retirement. There should be a criteria and policy, clear policy, transparent, so that it's known. I will bring it to their attention. I think our code, the DB, do you have anything to tell our code? He raised a number of local government issues, which I've noted here. If you have something, you can respond to him. District Service Commission and so on. Director budget.
balances and what we are doing about it. And as already mentioned, unspent balances arise from a number of things. One including procurements, which can also be a problem even at the level of the local governments. But what we've done is two things. One is to ensure that we release the money early enough so that there's no excuse to have unspent balances. But also, in the past, what we've done is that if there are unspent balances, because of the law, because the law requires that when there is money which is not spent at the close of the financial year, that money returns to the treasury. So in the past, what we've done is to make sure that we revote. We revote early enough so that the money is now available for utilization. But I think revoting is going to be a problem. So we'd like to urge that whatever issues there are should be resolved and the money utilized for service delivery early enough. I think that's what I wanted to respond to. I think the issue of the district service commissions, there could be issues of capacity, so the relevant institutions, including the Public Service Commission, is doing its work, and also the Public Service Commission, and also the, mainly the Public Service Commission, but also the other agencies, because in any case, in the districts, they don't recruit secondary school teachers, so the secondary school teachers are recruited by the Education Service Commission. So it's mainly the Public Service Commission that is also helping in building capacity, but also sensitizing, and also the Ministry of Local Government. The PS is very clear on this matter. I think that they are doing a lot of good work within the resources that they have. I think part of the problem is that there are not sufficient resources for the PS to do everything, including the induction of the LCs, but whatever forum we have, for example, when we go for the local government budget workshops, we also invite a lot of these leaders, and they are part of the process. So they get to know what is happening, and we hope that when they go back, they also pass on the same message, again, to improve on the way we do things, but also to improve service delivery. I thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, BSST and the Director Budget. We are now going to get questions from the media. And allow me to recognize your Commissioner for Economic Development Policy and Research. I know what you've been talking about is economic research. We have Mr. Joseph to that this morning. We also have the Commissioner from MoFPED, Mr. Welcome. So we are going to have questions. Media House, you put up your hand, mention your name and the Media House. We don't have a lot of time. Shaka, please, can you coordinate from that side?
Hey, good morning. My name is Akim Wambamba. Explicit budget performance, I want to congratulate you. Expected that. I have 4, and I will be a little snappy so we can be on time. So, I've been struggling to find a perfect word about the statutory budget or the statutory vote for Parliament. So I wanted to substitute this one, but I failed. So do you really have the balls to trim the budget of Parliament by 50%? Do you have what it takes to trim the budget of Parliament by 50%? If you would cut it by 80. 2, I've struggled to look for a better word, so I'm sorry. The Honorable Mwanga Chibumbi, in an interview with me, said that you don't have wudu, so you're not allowed to lead prayers, that you're not clean enough as a ministry to preach the gospel of being lean to Parliament. So, I think for me the perfect rebuttal to him would be you telling him about the costliness of the Ministry of Finance Planning and Economic Development. How lean is the Ministry of Finance Planning? Yeah. How lean or how cost effective are you in managing the budget around here, so you can qualify to stand on that moral high ground to preach leanness to the maximum body politic of the country. 3, tax administration and the question and the noise downtown Kampala is utterly not premised on sheer lack of knowledge of anything. The problem is trade order. The problem is trade order. So they will ask you, how do I reconcile Kuyiriba with IFRIS? And you've had these concerns. And the gospel you used to preach to us in class was lack of trade order. Now, as a technocrat in that particular area, what are you doing to restore trade order downtown Kampala? Because it is one of the problems that IFRIS is facing. I get things from a shop that uses IFRIS, I don't use IFRIS. So they are asking, am I issuing out 2 receipts or something like that? So from your end, what are you doing to ensure that you restore sanity or trade order downtown Kampala? 4, and I think this would have been ignored by any other person, but the 500 million gratuity to the retiring Auditor General, it was first proposed at 1 billion shillings. Now they've sized it down to 500 million shillings. What is your comment about that? Well, knowing that I sleep in a very bad road that could be repaired. So, what is your brief comment about that 500 million gratuity? Many thanks.
Okay, X, 1 question. No, not 4 questions. Like
okay. My name is John Ojek from the New Vision. My question is that issue relating to domestic areas. The government owes the New Vision 18 billion shillings. But when you mention that a lot of the domestic areas are being cleared, I'm wondering now why this news is. But I see you posted 10 billion, but according to the record there, 18 billion is owed. Now, as some of you might be aware, some of these problems have resulted in the closure of Urban TV. Also, quite a number of staff contracts are not being renewed, partly because of the areas and also the challenge in the major low revenue performance. I wonder what you can say and help us with this one. And the final question is just about accounting officers. If I'm an accounting officer in a district and I find that I don't have a medical officer and I'm forced to recruit, don't you think this could be the problem these people face? And how to resolve this? Maybe staffing challenges. Maybe you don't have a district plan and they're saying don't have a district plan. How will you function? Thank you.
NTV. Question for the Budget Director. Given the evidence that the economy is shrinking and the post-pandemic economic recovery is claiming that a lot of businesses, a lot of high-value tax earners, is the adversarial tax collection approach going to bear fruit or drive people underground and into more informal businesses, contrary to sort of disincentivize formalizing businesses?
Thank you so much, Mr. Fiscal. My name is Vincent Siripo, very well. Quick one. Back to the release, the quarter release just announced. There are concerns, especially when you go to the components therein on the non-wage aspects like the TDM, application grants. There are concerns in the Parliamentary Committee on Finance about the timing. But some of these releases are not timed, in relation to the activities undertaken in those particular aspects, funding, things like that. They're like, by the time you release the funds, they can't really meet the interest of the people who are expected to absorb these funds. I don't know what to be a comment to that. Second last is about yesterday in Parliament, it was past 10, when they were presenting the Ministerial Policy statements, and the matter came up about the corrigenda at Cabinet and new Minister of Finance here, intending to reduce the proposed budget for the next financial year by about 2.7 trillion. Would you kindly give us your position on this? Is it true that you will cabinet discuss the same? Finally, it's about the the service award, as my colleague put it forward.
Okay, one last question. If there's nothing. The lady, do we have any lady who has a question to answer?
My name is Fredo Jambo. I work for Bloomberg. What's the latest update regarding your negotiation with World Bank for unlocking new loans to Uganda? Then I'm also seeking clarity on external debt repayment, whether it includes principal and interest. Thank you.
Thank you, PSST. You can now respond to these questions.
All right. I'll be quite precise. Hakim trimming the budget by 50% of Parliament. I don't know where you are getting that, because the budget, you know, that's why I told you, budget is not a secret. The budget is there in the Parliament now. Gandhi check, you are a very good journalist, and since you sat in my class, you are also very well grounded in the facts and the figures. You will find that contrary to that, I've seen it in social media, in the media. The proposal was to reduce, I think, the travel abroad by 50%, but not the budget of Parliament by 50%. I want Uganda to clarify it to all Ugandans that finance does not have mad people. It has very rational people. But they were saying, let us look at, and that is a cabinet directive to have it revised by 50%. Only the travel abroad, but not the budget. My MP, I had you mentioned the name of my MP. You know, I come from Butambala, Honorable Chivumbi, that is saying, how lean is the budget of Ministry of Finance, isn't it? Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development is a service ministry, and Gandhi tell the politicians, please, that when you are looking at this budget, look at the budget lines. This is where you find the money I've mentioned here. PDM, 1 trillion. It is in the budget of Ministry of Finance, but it's not a Ministry of Finance money. It's going, we are just sending it to the people through Treasury. It is on the vote 008, sent through the Treasury to the people of Butambala in a parish called Kasozi, where Mwanga Chivumbi gets some votes, Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi. So it's just money going there, through here. UDB, the money which we give to UDB, so that it can support all our manufacturers and those who add value to our goods. When the people of Butambala grow ginger, tangawuzi, tell Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi that the money they get from UDB is on the budget of Ministry of Finance, but it's not money for finance. UNOC, when we are sending money to our company for oil to go and build the pipeline so that oil comes out next year. It is money you will find on the budget of Ministry of Finance, but it's not money. So finance is like a conduit of money for mainly value addition. Mainly for value addition. So please assure him and the other Ugandans, including his voters in Butambala, that all of this money is for the development of Uganda. And therefore, we have a very lean budget for running the very busy schedule that we have. On the trade order and IFRIS, actually IFRIS is one step towards creating that order you are talking about, ensuring that the traders now start to trade in an orderly way. You know, there are some misconceptions people get. How will IFRIS work on hawkers, on the Batembei? Are you going to give him a machine and he moves around every home with a machine? What? No. That's not how the economy works. That Mtembei or hawker buys a good from a shop to go and there's no Mtembei who imports goods from Dubai or China. They buy them from a shop. Now, that's where the IFRIS is. As he buys, it's going to be invoiced there, the receipt, and then we shall be able to collect the VAT at that point. There is no, and that shopkeeper is like the collector. The tax is not the one who's paying the tax. But the other Mtembe, and also the Mtembe is not the one who's going to pay that tax. You will put it in the good which he has taken now to the home of a person. As simple as that. So the trade order will come with these systems in place. And exactly, it's good that you are bringing out this. We want trade order. We want to formalize. We want people to start. And it is good for the businesses themselves. They will grow. They will grow, they will be able to get money from banks, they will be able to mortgage, they will be able to save, they will be able to invest. But these businesses we keep in a diary book. They buy a black book, they put lines there. And then you find here they put item. Then you put good boat, good sold, and then profit. That's how we keep books of accounts. Then in the evening when you hear that let us balance, they start to count the goods, then they deduct this money from the other money. And then they say the whole of this is a profit. So you find someone going to a hotel to enjoy the evening, thinking that he has made a profit, when actually he's eating the capital. And then he realizes after a year that the business has shrunk. He blames everybody else except himself. Now, with these systems coming, it is going to help you because as they invoice you, have you looked at the IFRIS invoice? It is actually very well, it's like a ledger. It will help people also to know the compatibility of their businesses. The 500 million to AG, the Auditor General, you know, you media, you thrive on controversy. You always look at controversy. How do I make man bite dog? You know where the laws are made. Can't find out on what is happening. On what is happening on this. So I am not even aware how the debate went, how much they proposed. Now you come to me, what do you think? I think nothing. until I get the full information. John, my friend of New Vision, you know all these journalists, I know them. John, the domestic areas of New Vision, they are part of those areas which government is going to clear in the due course, as long as they are verified. They are verified areas. Verification requires that you also accumulated them legally. Don't just bring a figure that is a figure here. I've told you here that some accounting officers have made mistakes. So some of you go and supply government without a contract. Others with a contract that has not been approved. Others with a contract approved without money. So, all those issues. Some have diverted the money. You have heard Julius telling you some mischarge. They move money which is supposed to pay New Vision or whatever, they buy other things, or they travel abroad. Those are the things we are addressing. And it's not going to be a sprint, it's going to be a marathon. We are going to address these issues with those accounting officers. So please, you will be paid, but also be mindful, suppliers, please, of how government works. I see people here come lobbying everybody, I want this contract, please give it to me. They go around lobbying. In most cases, those are the people who have problems of pay. Government does not have money, does not even have an idea of getting such a service. You are forcing it on it. You'll get into trouble. They borrow money from money lenders. Stop that tendency also. Supply government professionally. The forced recruitment. You are saying that in your home, no, you are saying in some of these local governments, the districts, they are forced to recruit because they don't have a certain critical staff. Huh? John, that's how you run things. For you, John, when you don't have money to get some critical need, you justify getting it through theft or some other means. No. All of us in life, you will never have enough money to provide for everything. But you prioritize and you say, I will get this one. And in most cases, when they write to us with those critical stuff, public service considers them, we look at the wage, we find wage, because the government is not, as I told you, having daft people or mad people. We are all the Ugandans. This we are talking about, that's where we belong. All of us, as we are seated here, and all those who sit in the cabinet and everywhere. We are all the Ugandans. But within the resources we have, what can we afford at a certain time? So don't justify bad things by the need to provide for it. Vincent of Radio 1, you are saying the timing of release of money like a PDM. I don't think there is any correct timing in this world. The correct timing is availability of money. Whenever money is available, we release it. And I want to tell you, PDM is a priority of government. One of the top priorities of government. And whenever we have the cash, we release it. I've told you we have now released ahead of the next season, so that they can get plant. We have released the half of the money, we shall release the other half. And the money released at whatever timing is very good money. It helps them to produce. So I have heard that actually, people talking of timing and so on, it is about the cash availability. As I've told you, in Uganda, we don't spend money we don't have. The corrigenda, reducing the budget by 2.7 billion, the other trillion, that is true. I've told you we fit in the resource we have and we are going to tighten the belts. That corrigenda is true. Let the entities adjust their budgets and fit within the resource. That's what Cabinet approved. That's the money available. And we run Uganda's budget that way. That's why you have never had Uganda that we have gotten into problem of debt, of failing to meet our obligations, because we fit within the money we have. And that's the money we have. Every entity must fit there. Don't expect new money is not there. You can't create money which is not around. Until next year, 2025, 2026. Now we fit in that and move. If you find that the money you have as an entity is not enough, get the first priorities, as we always guide. Ensure that wage is catered for. There is no entity which doesn't have full wage. Wage is catered for. There is the fixed costs. You have paid the utilities. And all those other things, wage, pension, gratuity, then utilities, and so on. If the money stops somewhere, before you have provided money for travel inland, for giving people the tools to work, let them earn wage, and they tell government we are only having wage and we are seated here. And you know, as we are doing now, we are rationalizing government as well. That's one way of rationalizing also. Because how can we spend money we don't have? So please, the agenda is for real, and that's why I told you that fiscal consolidation is a reality now, going forward. Where there are some critical challenges which are justifiable, internally we are looking at them, but that is the money we have as far as the budget is concerned. I thank you very much, and I wish you a very nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, PSST, for this press briefing. And I want to once again thank you all our partners with the media fraternity for this engagement. Please come again next year. We have a cup of tea. Please don't leave without having a cup of tea.
Even the body language. They are no longer taking hostages. You're no longer taking hostages. No, but yes, man.